Okay, in this video I'm going to be installing the Web Gateway MVC version. That is the plugin for AccuTrack or AccuSQL that allows for appointment scheduling, seminar registrations, and or collecting feedback from students. Okay, so I've got my installer here, so I'm just going to run my setup.exe. And this is really just a glorified file copy that's going to put all the files I need out to a folder. And I'll read the license, accept, click next, and the default is Web Gateway MVC. You can certainly change that if you'd like to, but I'll just accept that. Okay, so once the install is complete, I'll just finish. Now I'm going to go to the folder where I installed Web Gateway MVC, which was C Web Gateway MVC. And there's a couple of things I need to do here before I actually install the application in IIS. The first thing I want to do is set my data path. So here in my client bin folder, I have a file called setDataLocation.exe. Okay, so I'll double click that. And then I'm going to define one or more data connections to my database, new. Okay, then I can define either a SQL Server connection for AccuSQL or a native connection for AccuTrack. I'll go ahead and do an AccuSQL one this time. So I'll say yes for AccuSQL. Then I put in my server information here. Now the description is what's going to appear ultimately in Web Gateway from a drop-down box. So I'm just going to call this tutoring for now. And I'm going to put in SA authentication. I would recommend that. And then test my connection. Okay, once that's happy, I'm going to click the drop down, and in a second or two here, it'll populate the databases I have out in that SQL Server instance. I'll just pick a database here and then click Save. Okay, now a lab ID is going to pop up. So the new Web Gateway allows you to associate different connections with different labs, local labs in AccuTrack. Now, if you aren't sure about local labs or you're not using them, you'd probably pick default all. You can learn a lot about local labs in our reference manual. Anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and pick a default lab for this one and then save. Okay, so now I've defined a connection to that database with my default lab, but let's go ahead and add another new one. Another SQL is fine. And I'm going to call this one Math Lab. Same server information. And save that connection. Now this time I'm going to pick my lab of Math Lab. Click OK, save. Okay, so now I'm connecting to the same database here with two different labs, and you could define multiple databases if you'd like to. Okay, so I've done that, and I'll go ahead and close. Now optionally, I can run my email settings, and I can put in my mail server. That's used for sending email confirmations to students and tutors when appointments are made. And I'll save that. Okay, so now I've defined my database connections and my email server information. The next thing I'm ready to do is go ahead and go into IIS. And I'm going to be adding the Web Gateway MVC application. Now, by the way, I have my local host running here on this PC, so I'll just use that. Okay, and I'll go ahead and drop it under default website just so I can use port 80. You could define a new one if you'd like to and assign a port to it. But I'll go here, just right click on default and add application. And I'll just call it WGMVC. Now you can define your own application pool if you'd like to. I guess I could go ahead and do that first. I actually have one out here already. But the thing you want to do if you define a new application pool is make sure you do the .NET 4.0 30319 in this case. Okay, so back to adding the application. And I'll go ahead and pick that application pool. Okay, now I'm going to physically point to the path where I installed Web Gateway MVC, which was C Web Gateway MVC, and do OK. Now, if I go look, I'm sorry, I'm jumping around a bit, but if I go look back at my application pool, there's one thing I do need to have set for that in my advanced settings is I want to make sure I do enable 32-bit applications true. So just click the drop down and make sure that's set to true. Okay, but now I have my Web Gateway MVC ready to go. Back to my local host. And there's my main page. Now I can log in. Of course, if you want to do appointment scheduling, you would set that up in AccuTrack or AccuSQL itself. But here you can see I've got the two connections I defined. Enter an ID. And log in. And now I'm ready to do appointment scheduling, seminar registrations, whatever the case may be. Okay, so that's all there is to it.